As we hear the song fade out, we have an opportunity to breathe, to be aware of our breath, exhaling out, inhaling in, recognizing that we are in a special time, in a special place. Indeed, we are in a sacred place, surrounded, infused with love. And let us feel the love that has expressed and permeated this room. And as we breathe and allow ourselves to feel grateful for what has been, let us be aware that we are becoming a conscious spiritual midwife to the next stage of our evolution, to the evolution of love on the planet. We are in a sacred time and place We are becoming. We are at a time of transformation. In that transformation, we have an opportunity to choose. We have an opportunity to choose love, to choose growth. And in this moment, and in this very moment, we recognize that we are becoming more than we have been. We are becoming powerful in a divine way. We are becoming love expressed. We are becoming a powerful way to be aware of what is ours to do, is to go into that sacred place, that closet that is within, and shut the door so that we may listen to the divine guidance that is always available, to listen. That higher power, that spiritual voice, those ideas, the divine ideas that fill us with wonder. And so we go into that silence, and we close the door, and we listen. Here we are. Here we are in the silence, and coming from the silence with new ideas, new awareness, being filled to overflowing with spirit. We recognize it. We give thanks for it. And in our gratitude, we allow our attention to to rise, returning to this room, allowing ourselves to be grateful that we are here, that we can be here, that we have choice, and that we have freedom. And so it is. Amen. Good morning, powerful people. Good morning. What wonderful power I see out here. And oftentimes, power kind of gets a bad rap. People say, oh, we don't want to be powerful, or we don't want to have power over, or we don't want to, I don't know, be too powerful. Nobody wants to be too powerful because, well, then we might leave someone behind, right? There is a divine power, a power that is of spirit, a power that allows us to actively be involved in our creation, the creation of our lives, the creation that we live in. And so I ask, do you want bondage or liberty? Which? That's a chapter title from Emily Cady's book, Lessons in Truth, a great read. Bondage or liberty, which? And she says, well, this is actually a scripture. Finally, be strong in the Lord and in his strength of power. Whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is pleasing, whatever is commendable, if there is any excellence, and if there is anything worthy of praise, think of these things. So oftentimes, we get attached to some ideas that may be less than positive. Anybody? So, I don't really want to see a show of hands. So we get these ideas in our heads and we think about them and we think about them and we think about them, when our real power comes in making a choice to change our minds. Making a choice to be focused on that is good, that is pure, that is commendable. So the power that we have been given and the powers that Charles Fillmore created, well, he didn't really create them. He drew them out and put them into a book and used them. And those powers that he presented to us were, to some people, complex, but they're very simple. So I want you to understand, when we're talking about the 12 powers, we're talking about those attributes, the skills that we have, that power that we have within us. And the power of power is such a fun power. How many times can I say power? Such a fun power because it is finding that place that we can make change. It is about having dominion over. It is about manifesting. All those words that we so often think are negative, but when we use them in the divine, when we use them in that place of being powerfully in love, then things begin to change. So I went to Webster to find out about power, and Webster said as a noun, it's the ability to do something or act in a particular way, especially a faculty or quality such as the power of speech. And really that's what we're talking about. We're talking about something that we can do or act in a particular way, a faculty. So that's what we're talking about with our divine powers. It's the capacity or the ability to direct or influence the behavior, and it says, of others, or the course of events. Now, I'm not always sure how we can direct others. We can invite others. Not sure we can make others or power them up. As a verb, it means a supply or device with a mechanical or electrical energy. And it also means to travel with a great speed or force. They powered past the dock toward the mouth of the creek, they say. So all of those are nice, but let's listen to what Charles Fillmore has to say about power. Power is the realization that control and dominion of all thoughts, all feelings, all emotion is given to humankind, and that he can easily direct in any desired channel. So I'm going to read it again. Charles Fillmore says that power is the realization that control and dominion of thoughts, feelings, and emotions is given to humankind, and that he can easily direct any desired channel. So this church is in a place of power right now and able to direct that with love and grace. And we're talking again about divine love. We're not talking about that personal power where we want to use our will to make something happen. We're talking about divine power where we allow ourselves to get into the flow, to listen to the divine, and to act from that. Charles Fillmore also says that power is man's innate control over his thoughts and feelings. A quickening from on high must precede the realization of dominion. So we have to do our work. We have to become quiet, still, listen, go within that still, small place where we listen. So we'll receive that power when we are open to it. Fillmore also says that the mind and the body of man has power to transform every energy from one plane of consciousness to another. And this is the power and the dominion implanted in man from the beginning. Now we know that Charles Fillmore wrote in a time that man was the way he wrote, and it's all right, right? So we have been instilled with the ability to create. We've been instilled with the ability to create our own reality. I remember early in my recovery in a 12-step program, people would say, why don't you just change your past? And I thought that was the silliest thing. I said, how can I change my past? But it's possible. As we begin to recognize that that's happened to us to this point, has brought us here. Aren't you glad you're here? I'm glad I'm here. So it's brought us to a point that we have the ability, again, to make choice. I'm going to say that a lot. The ability to make choice. It's our spiritual pivotal point. We can go here or we can go here. Now, sometimes the decision here is really great. And sometimes here it's good too. And so that becomes one of those places that we have to surrender and listen, because there is no bad decision. So, power, the power of power. The color that has been assigned it is purple. The disciple is Philip. And the place in the body is the back of the throat. And that talks about the power of word. We all know the power of word and the strength of our words, and we know that when we're using that phrase, I am, that it's important that we use it with absolute clarity and absolute consciousness. If you hear yourself saying, I am something negative, I invite you to stop in that very moment and say, oh, no, really I am whatever it is that you really are. Because you really are. You really are a powerful group of people who have the ability to affect the change of this place, this church, this community, and yourself in your own life. So Fillmore talks about what we see in the external is something that we're holding within. Now, again, I used to have a real problem with that. I didn't want to believe that I was holding But it's not like we do that consciously. If we're having something acting out over here, it doesn't mean that we're consciously thinking, oh, I want to be sick, let's say. We're not consciously thinking that. But we may have an old tape that we want to heal and forgive and let go of. And that's our power. Our power is to see that there is something we want to change and become willing to do it. That's how we have dominion. That's how we have that powerful experience of love. And that is one of the important pieces of power, is that we do it with and through love. It's as if we're walking through a divine matrix. And this matrix is filled with love. It's filled with guidance. It's filled with the powers, the 12 powers that we will continue to be looking at. So as we lift our energy in the recognition of good, we begin changing. When I was earlier in Austin, I was in a group that was called Talk It Out, and we worked with young teens that were at risk. And the idea was to teach them to come together and talk about their problems versus being violent and physical. And when we first started, it was incredible. These kids wouldn't listen to us. We couldn't get the classroom quiet. They just did everything they could to disrupt us. And finally, one of the men in the group was very wise, and he had a notebook in his hand, and he goes, bam! And he knocked it to the floor, and everyone got quiet. And we realized that they had been in an environment that was so noisy and so chaotic that they needed something that loud to stop them, to get their attention. And then we could talk to them. We had to get their attention. We talked to them about talking it out. And they were like, oh, you old white woman, get out of here. Oh, blah, blah. But we talked, the teacher was incredible. She said, so how many of you have somebody in prison that's in your family? And all of them raised their hand, every one of them. But then they gave her a lot of grief, and they said, why are you asking that? You don't have the right to do that, old white woman. And she said, my son's in jail because he never learned to talk it out. He never learned to talk about his feelings and his hurts. So we have feelings and we hurt, and it's important to talk about it. However, we don't have to live there. We don't have to move in to what's not worked in our lives. We can tell the story. It's important to tell the story. It might be important to tell the story 2 or 3 times. But we don't want to live in that story, right? We don't want to live in the story of what hasn't worked for us. And we have the power to change that. We don't have to live in that story. If we want to experience spiritual power, we must release that place in us where we hold to the old, to the negative. And as we do that, the body begins to change. The body begins to heal. The body begins to respond to that new softness, that new peace, that new joy. How many of you experience joy in your life? I'm sure everybody has had some joy in your life sometime. Yes? So that's what you hold. In those moments that you're down, you don't stay, oh, I'm just going to stay down over here. You start to focus on something that's working, something that's good. No matter what happens in my life, I can think about my cat. She's still really a kitten. She likes to sleep on her back with her feet in the air, and she kind of travels during the night. I can never not smile when that comes to my mind, when I see that. It's one of the ways I can change my focus. I know you have grandkids or our children or aunts or cousins or nieces or nephews, something that thrills your heart. And that's where you focus. That's the place of power. That's the place of power. And we are in a place of power today. And I invite each of us to hold to the beauty and the truth of this community, to hold to the beauty and truth of what we are drawing to us, for that is indeed what we are doing. As we stand here, we are drawing. We don't want to keep going, oh, what was? But we want to go, what is? We invite that what is. We invite the joy, the peace, the spirit of this community to expand and grow. And I bless each and every one of you, for you're an integral part of what is happening here. Whether this be your first time here, you are important. And I hope that you experience and acknowledge and know your power, especially as we go into this week of 4th of July. May you have a wonderful 4th, and God bless you. Oh, I'm not taking your page, I did.